Welcome into the studio. We're going to start here today. We're going to take care of some business in here, keep all my stuff from getting soaking wet, etc. And we're going to move out to the field, hopefully demonstrate some of these holsters, put them to the test a little bit, show you what they're supposed to be doing. With all that, who am I to tell you anything about holsters? I am a person that has worn some type of holster and had a firearm on my body every time I've left the house. And I mean every time I've left the house for over the last 36 years throughout my career. I have worn several different styles of duty holsters, both revolvers and semi-autos. I have worn concealed carry holsters, from ankle holsters and leather and cheap nylon to handcrafted leather to, excuse me, trying to get over a cold, to Kydex type stuff of today. I have not purposefully tested, but worn and through life experience tested a lot of different styles for a lot of different reasons. So we're going to try to cover the gamut of why you're wearing a holster, whether it's on the range, hunting, concealed carry, personal defense, work, and so on, all right? Because all those different areas have different needs of holsters or different expectations. Nothing I tell you today is you must go do this. These are just my observations, recommendations for what you need to look for in a holster from my personal experience and my training and my cost of equipment that hopefully I'll help save you from doing so much. If you have a lot of different firearms, your table, your bin is going to look like this. If you've had a need for handgun holsters of various types for the last 36 years, you're going to have old crap and new stuff and cheap stuff and super spendy stuff, which I can't put my hands on right in front of me other than some of what I'm wearing. We have pocket holsters, ankle holsters, belt holsters, concealed carry holsters, leather, nylon, and Kydex. So, in no particular order of things to cover and safeties, and when I say safeties, I mean retention devices of holsters, etc. We're going to start on one end, work our way to the next end. We're going to end up with showing off our retro Pop-Tarts box. Yes, throwback pack. You guys have seen it before if you've seen some of our videos in the studio. We're going to drink some coffee while we're at it. We're going to start off with why this topic is important. If you're sitting there thinking, well, it's just something to hold your gun. Yes, but it's a really, really important piece of equipment to hold your gun. And it always depends on what the mission is you're trying to carry that gun for. So here's a tragic holster story for you. Young, late teens person lost their life to not following a basic handgun safety rule from the 1800s and not having an adequate holster with a retention device for the handgun he was using. That, I'm going to make some enemies here, but is on the people that taught him. That is on the people that provided that firearm to him, taught him how to use it, load it, etc., and provide the holster for him. Now, this was a cap and ball revolver, 36 caliber. I don't remember exactly what model, but it was a reproduction, so it was not a modern with a transfer bar type safety. This was a reproduction of an 1800s, probably 1860s cap and ball revolver. And one of the tragedies is that he'd been carrying this gun all day. They've been shooting it all day and having fun with it, which is what you're supposed to do with firearms. But at some point, he loaded all six cylinders, and he put the hammer down on the percussion cap of one of those chambers. Now, if any of you out there anywhere in your life have played with the infamous red paper caps that used to go in the cap guns of the 60s and 70s, and you hit them with a hammer, you know they go off. We used to take the whole box and hit them with a sledgehammer and make a great big boom. We loved that. In a microcosm, that's how a percussion cap works, except for they're brass and they have an element in them. They have stuff in them that when you hit them hard enough, they go off. And the hammer on a cap and ball is usually just flat face. There is no firing pin. So the hammer is resting on this percussion cap. And as we know, anything that hits the hammer hard enough is going to transfer that energy, hit the cap, and it sets it off. Which is why you don't carry the firearm fully loaded with the hammer resting on a percussion cap. Rule from the 1860s, people. Not all old is bad. So he's got it loaded that way. He's carrying it in a cross-draw holster, which means the butt's forward, right? This would be similar to a cross-draw holster, except for it's on his belt. It's down here. And 3 times that day, 3 times, anytime he bent over, the holster, or the gun, had fallen out of the holster. Well, it's in the evening. They've got a fire going. They're cooking their sausages over the fire. Dad's sitting over here. Kid's tending to it. He bends over. And around the fire are flat rocks for the fire ring. He bends over. And it's the one gun I forgot to put on the table. Sorry. ADD kicked in. Anyway, he bends over. Gun falls out. Hits the flat rock on the perfect part of the hammer spur. Gun's pointed at him now. Goes off. 1.36 caliber ball through his heart, and he dies in front of his father. This was a circumstance I personally got involved in through work, obviously. I had a little bit of experience about cap and ball revolvers. I found the mark on the rock. I'm not saying that to brag or anything else. I'm saying that to tell you that I know what happened. This isn't rumor, etc. For the lack of retention device on his holster, for the lack of a holster that fit that firearm properly, for lack of somebody telling him the first 3 times it fell out, hey, let's not do that anymore, and the lack of somebody properly instructing him on how to load and carry that firearm, he's no longer with us. So yeah, I'm a little bit passionate about holsters, retention devices on them, proper holsters for proper firearms. And when you look at the gamut of, I'll go ahead and say it, crap that I have, and some I've put thousands of hours into, some I've had forever, some are $10 buy mart specials, and some are $200 Safariland or other brand names. And any brand names I say today are just the brand names. It is not an endorsement to run out to buy. That's the only one. But that's why I'm passionate, is to save another life, another person from accidentally shooting themselves. I just watched a video yesterday. Somebody was at a firing range, an indoor range. They put their holster on their belt. The person telling the story was holding a holster. Let's see if I can find one similar to this one with this flap, except for his was really flappy. Okay, and it wasn't for a revolver, but it was a similar style. And the guy went to put the gun away. I'm guessing a semi-auto. But long story short is this part got in the trigger guard, and when he holstered it, it pulled the trigger. Gun went off, went through the guy's leg, in and out. The people attending there, the managers and etc., attending the range, got tourniquets on him. The guy's going to be fine. Have a long story to tell. And again, that was just on YouTube yesterday. So you can find it, I'm sure, out there somewhere. And if somebody does and they want to put a link to that here, that'd be outstanding. we've all heard stories where you're going to reholster and some dangly part of your coat or jacket or whatever gets down in the holster. This happens more with cops apparently, because that's where I've heard it. I've never talked to the person it happened to, but it's the story of the century. And the gun, I mean the dangly part, you know, the drawstring, whatever on your coat gets in the holster, gets down in the holster, gets in the trigger guard, especially with striker fire guns with less, you know, shorter trigger pulls, etc. And the guy blows the bottom of his holster out or shoots himself or whatever. So that gets to knowing your equipment, and I've seen guys do this too, but knowing your equipment, knowing what you have where, fixing those issues so it doesn't happen. I have a holster over here, particular to the SIG. This is an M17, but particular to this model, there is an issue with Safariland 6300 series holsters that, if you can see, the trigger guard is exposed just a little bit. And it's specific to ones that have the big light for them. And when it's big enough to get the light down in there, it leaves enough of a gap here that if you work at it, you can get your finger down in here on the trigger. And if you work at it, you can get something else in there, a stick or anything, and thus the gun going off. So it's not a gun issue as much of a holster issue, holster design. My understanding, I have not talked to Safariland, obviously, is that they're working on redesigning this, making it less susceptible to that. But this is another example, a lot of money spent on this holster, and it's just, you know, I can't hardly get my finger in this way. I think you'd have to work really hard to do that. Is it possible? Yep, it is. So if you have this model of firearm, and it's just to this model, by the way, but if you have the 320 or the M17 and one of these type holsters, look at your stuff and evaluate it for yourself and see whether or not it's something you need to address and replace. All right. Again, in no particular order, let's start in my treasure trove of crap from one end, go down to the other. We're going to cover both semi-autos and revolvers. We'll start with this one. Yes, all my firearms are unloaded. This is an old style, handcrafted, copied from a friend of mine that used to do leather work. I've carried this as an off-duty, believe it or not, 4-inch. My off-duty was a 38 Special, Model 15, Smith & Wesson. So I'm going to put my prop guns down over here. It has that same type of flappy thing. With the revolver, though, with the revolver, you don't have, the trigger guard never comes close to this part. And you put it back in, and you're like, but Roy, the trigger guard's exposed. Yes, you are correct. But you can't pull the trigger, cannot pull the trigger, because the hammer is locked in place, which with revolver holsters is paramount. And of course, you have a long, heavy trigger pull and double action on revolvers, etc. So that's why we thought we could get away with it. You cannot do that with modern striker fire firearms. The trigger guard has to be, the trigger and trigger guard has to be protected no matter what style holster you have, which is why striker fires do not, repeat, do not work well as just in your pocket carry firearms. Again, this is for a revolver, thumb snap, but this floppy part on this particular model doesn't really matter. And for most revolvers, as I evaluated earlier for myself before starting this, is the trigger guard and the trigger are so far away from where this is going to get hung up that it doesn't become an issue. Pocket carry, striker fire firearms. Ruger and others make for slips down in your pocket, protects the trigger guard, keeps stuff from getting in it. Don't carry anything else in that same pocket. Here is a Kydex version of that same style, different firearm. But if you were wanting to carry like this little 22 in your pocket, you would want something that covers the trigger, obviously. Keeps it from getting in there. Now, soft things, soft gear, these get worn out over years if you were doing this every day. And they get impressed or compressed, either way. And then you might be able to get on the trigger. So always look at and watch and maintain your equipment. Here's a sort of an example of what I was just talking about. This holster one was fitted, but I've worn this hundreds, if not thousands of hours on duty, off duty, everywhere I've gone as an ankle gun. I tend to wear boots all the time, which is why it doesn't have the big strap and so on. It is getting so worn out that the Velcro is starting to wear on it for me. I'm almost in the need of replacing it. Again, trigger guard is slightly exposed. This is a different firearm in the fact that it is shrouded hammer, not hammerless. So you have to have a holster that fits for this shrouded hammer firearm, which is why you end up with so many holsters, is because this does not work for my 38 Special 640, which has just a hammer. Actually, I'm sorry, the one I do is a bodyguard. It has this, but the barrel is, on this model, is a little bit longer, and the gun itself is a little bit fatter, so my 38 Special does not fit in this holster as well. And again, you can see where it's molded to this, and if you carried it on your belt enough, maybe it's soft enough that you'd get something in there, and this one does not keep the hammer from rolling back. A very popular brand of holster that Paul loves, Hunter brand holsters. We love them because you don't have to pull your whole gun belt apart to get a holster on and off. You unsnap it here, folds open, put it over the belt, close it up, voila. Now, this one is older, and typical of a lot of the Hunter brand, they had a place that the strap ran over this part, ran from here over here, and held the gun in on the trigger guard. Let's see. Yes, just like this one's intended to do. And again, this is not a Hunter brand. It's got a big K on the back, but it's the same style. You see it unsnaps, so it's the same exact style. And that's the way this one was originally. And the problem with that is that as you're walking through the brush, the hammer on your firearm can get pulled back. And since it's exposed and now it's single action, it takes nothing to pull that trigger with the next piece of brush, and your firearm goes off in your holster, causing you all kinds of issues. So traditionally, Paul and I would take that safety strap off. In this case, I've put a piece of 550 cord over it, and in fact, on a couple different holsters I've done that with. And you get your 550 or whatever you want to put there as your retention tight enough. There we go. And now it can't pull it back as you're walking. So you don't have that same issue. Gun won't come out of the holster. So gun is safe in the holster, stays in the holster, and your hammer doesn't get rolled back while you're going through the brush. Here's the less expensive version. These are Uncle Mike's, I believe. This was Paul's for his 450 Marlin, I believe. No, 444. His BFR in 444. Infamous tie down with a 550 cord and some cheap belt that he found somewhere. You don't have to spend $300, but you'll be happier if you do. And I guess if all you're doing is once a year hunting with this for, a few hours, that works just great. If you're going to live with it all the time and months on end, etc., I'd suggest moving up your game to leather or, in today's world, a Kydex type version. Put that one down here. Talked about the Hunter holsters. Here's one that is a style that Paul this is not the holster, but Paul had a style that a few years ago, apparently after this style was all banned on every range out there. And that is, you're supposed to press this little lever in with your trigger finger as you grip your firearm. So you would press it in, draw out. And the fear was, and apparently some people have shot themselves doing it, is that when you pull the firearm out, instead of leaving your hand on the firearm, excuse me, somehow you get the finger in the trigger guard, and as you're drawing, you discharge your firearm. Apparently a lot of inexperienced people were doing that and caused a lot of problems. And so basically at least according to the comments on Paul's video, a lot of people got upset. They were all banned. How dare Paul show something like that nobody likes and everybody knows is extremely unsafe. And he did a rebuttal about it, but that's a different story. I haven't shot myself yet. I don't wear it every day. I did for a while. I can see why there's different stuff. The nice thing about Kydex is it doesn't break down like leather does. It doesn't mold to it like leather does. It is weather impervious. It is usually form-fitted to the firearm, but that's one of its drawbacks is it's form-fitted to the firearm, and unless you know how to work it, etc., you're not changing this for one that's similar. We talked about my ankle holster here. Ankle holsters are another way, not very popular, okay popular in law enforcement circles. It's another way of concealed carry, obviously. It's out of the way. It is not the most popular way, never has been, but it's definitely, depending upon how you're dressed, an option. Better there than somewhere else. And in this case, it's 5 shots, 357. So, and I know people put smaller, lightweight 9mm on their ankles. Some law enforcement still wear them down there as backup guns. A lot of us don't because we have so many pockets and vests and other place to put them. Talked about the pocket. This is just another version of a Hunter brand, which is not Hunter, but it's old enough and stretched out enough that I can do this with it. Again, it started off with the strap over that. I changed it to another piece of 550 cord. I've used this for my 4-inch or 5-inch 44 mag. I've used it for any type of revolver that would fit into it. My cap and ball at times. I have a Ruger Old Army. It's just been a really good holster. Obviously, I haven't worn it every day for years on end. It's just been a really good go-to piece of equipment. And for the reason that, like we mentioned to begin with, is you can take it on and off the belt fairly easy, replace it with something else. And it's leather, and it's a general large frame revolver size, so as long as it doesn't fall out, we're okay. Another type of Kydex type holster. This one's lined. It's got a paddle so you can take it on and off easier. Notice this has, other than compression, no safety, or no, not safety, but no retention other than compression. The drawback of that is, and there's videos out there apparently showing this, that anybody can snatch your firearm if your shirt's ridden up, if you're in an altercation. Yes, they don't fall out when you tip them upside down. Yes, you can go about your normal life. Yes, if you keep it concealed, that won't happen. But sometimes they aren't concealed. Sometimes people see them for whatever reason. Sometimes people get into fights while wearing their firearm, and nothing keeps the other side from pulling your gun out of your holster. If you are law enforcement, security, anything out there like that, you're going to training. Training's a different world. I get that. You're just sitting in a class. You're going to and from, the place, etc. If you're in the soft clothes, because almost nobody wears plain clothes, at least around here anymore. But if you're in your polo shirt and tack pants and you're a detective, and this is the type of holster you have, I would highly recommend trying to find something that actually has retention. Or don't go into closed spaces with known suspect bad guys. If you get in an altercation, it takes nothing to jerk the gun out of the holster, which is why you're wearing it that way anyway. I've seen guys do that. And one point, we did have a guy I was helping secure that, anyway, the detectives, he'd made threats, and we were going to go in and put him in a special restraint thing. And the detectives were smart enough to put their firearms, secure them away before they went in there, because they didn't have a secure type holster. They were wearing one similar to what I wear all the time, and that is just a straight up draw holster. All right. This is a leather holster. It's not old by any means. It's for the Glock and with the light. It's just another soft, it's what a detective might wear if they wanted to wear a full-size gun. What I might wear if I went to training for a full-size gun. I like to, if I want to carry my full-size gun on my pack or something, I like this clip. It just clips onto the pack strap, kind of like this, or the pack belt. It has obviously this retention, and it compression fits a little bit, but the retention is this. This would be one of those that you need to be very careful about as it gets newer and things get in the way of it. Okay. And that is, as your firearm, I have the wrong light on here. There we go. So, obviously it's stiff enough this doesn't get in the way. But if you were having issues, okay, and for whatever reason this got down here, you were lined up wrong, you could see where this might get in the way, and down here, especially as it got older and floppier, and it might cause you issues. So be more aware of that. With it up there like that, and the gun goes in the holster like this, it stays away from there. Again, you can see where it covers the trigger guard completely. It's a Glock, it's a striker fire. The way this holster is currently, where it's almost not broken in, that doesn't become an issue with this getting in the way. Obviously, over time, it could. You need to pay attention to your equipment, always. This holster is an old duty holster. I've put Safariland's quick release system on it, so I can put it on my go to the range belt, or put a different holster on that. I've got 2 or 3 holsters set up this way. This is for that same Glock. Obviously, you can't put the SIG in this because it's a totally different firearm, totally different light. This one, when it's all done, this, see if I can do it this way, push down, roll forward. It's just the way this one works. That's okay. It's just what you get used to. On that point, that's totally different than my current duty holster. And what I would say to you is practice, 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 and don't have too many different ways of opening on holsters that you're trusting your life to. Meaning, don't be swapping back and forth between systems. With this one, there is you pull it backwards, the gun comes straight out, okay? Super simple, super quick, just like that. But it's different than pushing and rocking forward. And not just, overuse the muscle memory, but your training, and I have made mistakes a long time ago, but in your training, you want to do the same action over and over and over again. So I wouldn't swap back and forth between different styles of holsters, especially on gear that you're going to trust your life to. So I wouldn't wear this one day, that one a different day. You make a mistake at the range, costs you some time, so what? You make a mistake when you want to shoot the rabbit or something, so what? Making a mistake when you need to get your firearm out and put it into go to work mode, That's the difference. So try not to do that. We've been talking about full-size holsters. This is a super old holster. Don't even where I got it other than from Paul. You got your North American arms. It probably wasn't meant for that to begin with, but it fits it super nice. It covers the hammer, covers the trigger guard. No, I don't have a retention device on it currently because I form-fitted it to it. I need to fix that, obviously. And it works the same kind of way. It just unfolds this way. You put it on. It's just a fun little gimmick type thing. I probably wouldn't recommend it, and I sure don't trust it not to have the gun fall out if I was doing a whole bunch of stuff up in the woods. I wouldn't carry this as a concealed carry option, not with this holster. There's a lot of better options. Maybe even in your pocket's a better option. Knowing this firearm, there is a way to put it between the cylinders so it's not resting on a live round. So know your firearm. And that way you're able to carry 5. They're fun little guns. Here is just another cheap Uncle Mike's that I modified because I needed a holster for a semi-auto. It's obviously set up for a revolver. And I just cut it to the length I wanted, which is a nice thing about that. I think $20 for this holster. It's stamped Glock. But if you've been following along this long, you can automatically see the problem with this. And that is no retention. The gun stays in it. It's not going to fall out of my holster when I'm walking around and doing stuff. I have not rolled on the ground and tipped upside down with it to make sure it wouldn't fall out, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't. It helps hold it in as you put it on your belt, and it compresses a little bit. The disadvantage of this is you can't just slip it on off your belt quickly. You have to weave it through your belt. And again, there's really no way to adjust the compression. There's no way to fix any of that. So, I guess it's okay. There's spend the money when it comes to this. I needed a holster just to be able to go shoot the gun for a bit. Same idea as not the Uncle Mike's, the Hunter. Same idea. This one though, instead of being back here, is up here, comes over. Another belt slide holster. Yes, most of my stuff is left-handed. This is a right-handed one. For some semi-auto I don't have. Again, no retention. This screw sets the pressure and therefore how much force it takes to pull it out. But anybody that is after your firearm can pull it out. Excuse me while I get my brains. Here is an old school security holster. Nelson brake front. I've had guys not even know how to work these. They're so old. And then I chuckle because this is what I cut my teeth on. It is not a clamshell for those thinking, oh, that's a clamshell. It is not that. There we go. All right, what it is this is spring steel in here. Nelson brake fronts were the industry standard in the 70s and 80s, late 70s up through mid to late 80s. Thumb brake, you rock the gun forward, it comes out, okay, like that. Works better if you're wearing it. You put it back in, kind of weird. You don't put it back in the holster this way. You put it back in this way, goes in quick, holds the gun. That's not going anywhere. Depending on what model you have, this rolls out of the way, doesn't get in your trigger. So this particular thing being like that is not an issue because when you draw your firearm, it kind of knocks it down out of the way. You put it back in here. Excellent, excellent piece of equipment. Yes, it's antiquated just like the firearm that's designed to hold. That being said, doesn't mean it's a bad piece of equipment. It's just we have plastic and Kydex and faster and flashlights and you name it. But in its day, this was the Ferrari, Cadillac, you name it, whatever. This was the go-to piece of equipment. And if I polished it up, it gives the same service it did when this thing was made 40 some years ago, 30 some years ago. So Anyway, Nelson brake front. Not many people out there wearing them. Obviously, they're unless you're carrying a revolver, if that's what you're wanting to do. But it was designed for duty use, not concealed carry, obviously, and they make them in all kinds of different cants, different firearm butt cants, etc., etc. It's just another type of holster that's out there. Yeah, there you go. Talked about this one. This is just a straight top draw type holster. Now, you will see that maybe you get it in the way, but again, this strap is up high enough that it shouldn't get in the way of, shouldn't keep you from having issues getting in the trigger guard. Shouldn't. Okay. This is not a quick draw holster, so if you think it's going to, move the strap out of the way. You can see that this holds it in over the hammer, cannot pull the hammer back, therefore you're not going to set the gun off. The disadvantage of this holster is that if you don't put the strap on, the gun falls out. This is not molded. It is built for this gun. It's not molded to it. The only retention is this and the fact that it's 6-inch long barrel, so, just standing there isn't going to hopefully tip it over. But you can see, going back to my story I started this with, if this was in a cross draw, pretend it's on my belt, and it goes like that, you bend over at the waist, and the gun comes out. Okay? It's just that simple. I never saw the holster from my story. I never saw the exact holster the kid was wearing, but I understand the problem. They still make flap holsters. Some guys, for their chest rigs, especially revolver and stuff, they're wearing a flap over it to protect the firearm better. Almost nobody is, but some do. This is for my Ruger Old Army cap and ball revolver. You can see from that angle that I have worn this a lot when I was a kid. It was my go-to gun. So much so that the rear has molded around the firearm. The front has molded around it. Pretty sure this was almost this color when we started. This has been a really, really good piece of equipment. It's held up forever. But it's just a different style. It is not a cross draw, anything else. It's just a belt one. It protects your firearm. I've hunted in the snow, etc., with it. Keeps your cap and ball dry, ready to go. So there you go. This is a different style that would be nice. The only one I've seen like this, where it unsnaps here, put it around your belt, put it back in, snap it up, and it's got a little more protection because of this wide strap, a little more protection for your firearm. So this is just another top draw. This is from El Paso Saddlery. Supposedly what Texas Rangers wore back in the 30s. I just thought it was kind of a cool, I wouldn't go to work with something like this, obviously, nowadays. It has the same problem this one does, though, that if this is off, there is no retention. Although this is more form-fitted, but it's still going to fall out. So this is your only retention. Holsters like this and guys getting in fights are why the industry went to holsters like this and a lot of other type holsters like this, the clamshell, the LAPD, all those type things. This is a really good holster. It's great production. It's well made, etc. It's not a, go fight and deal with people wanting to take your gun type holster. Showed you this a little bit earlier. This is just another cheap, God knows how many years old, Uncle Mike's. It doesn't slide on the belt well. I mean, it does, but you got to take your belt, weave it through there, pain in the rump. It is adjustable for these, for different size firearms. It's for a semi-auto. $15. You get what you pay for. Obviously, this is like 30-some years old, and there are tons and tons and tons of Kydex that are better than this. The one advantage this has over almost all the Kydex out there is that its retention is this. Yes, I know any bad guy with his salt can chop the thing, get your gun out, reach up, unsnap it, but it does take a split second quicker than just snatching the gun out of a Kydex type holster that has nothing but friction retention. What isn't a holster on the table? This is not a holster, folks. This is, some people call them gun rugs. This one is all worn out nowadays. It's just a bag that helps protect the gun, keep it less dusty. It's not a holster. Excuse me. All right. Going through the mix here. Do shoulder holsters have a place in today's world? Yeah, they probably do. I see fat guy holsters, which is they don't look that good. But I see them advertised. In fact, their ads even suck. This is a left-handed one made for 1911s that the Colonel got somewhere for Paul before he passed, and then I ended up with it. It works nicely if you have just a standard everyday 1911. It's just straight up and down. In fact, this one is left-handed for me. Holds 2 magazines over there. It's leather. It's fully adjustable. So it's a nice holster. The advantage, and let me stand up here and show you. Well, I don't need to stand up quite yet. So this is a different style shoulder holster. Obviously, it's not the right length for this Gerson. It's just in there for demonstration purposes. And I'll show you a disadvantage to holsters that don't perfectly fit your gun. You can't get in close enough, but you'll see that this has slipped up. And if it's slipped up fast enough, or hard enough, far enough, the gun could slip out without, just set that there so you don't think I'm flagging myself too much, without unsnapping it. So, it's not a perfect shoulder holster. It's why I don't use it very often. It's just at the range, just stand around more for purposes or looks than anything else, because I wouldn't want to be out moving around a ton and have it fall apart. So is there a purpose? Yeah, if you're a guy that sits in the car all the time. Well, I can't get undressed. There we go. If you're a guy that sits in the car all the time and you need to get to your firearm and you don't want it on your belt, you can't carry an appendix, things like that, then it might be the method for you. You can conceal them very well. You can put all kinds of tiny guns in them. You can put all kinds of big guns in them. So maybe that is what you want to work for. And you could adjust it to go over the top of your clothing if you want to wear it out in the woods or wherever you don't need to conceal. Another type of holster, you've seen this one in recent videos, is what they call a chest holster. Now, I would say with any holsters, with any firearms that do not have manual safeties, the Glock, any of your striker firearms, this retention device and things getting down in your holster is a major concern. Okay? This getting in here and accidentally pulling this trigger, something being in the way, is always going to be a concern. This one is right here. You can move stuff out of the way. You can see it. You should be able to take care of those issues. You can see this one protects the trigger guard. Almost all your good modern semi-auto designed for holsters are going to cover the trigger guards on them. Almost all of them. Now, what are we not talking about in holsters? We're not talking about race gun holsters or true competition holsters. We're talking about holsters that you and I and the common folk out there are going to wear to firearms they're trusting their life on. We had to change the battery. Sorry about that. What we were talking about when the battery died was what we aren't talking about today, and that is race gun holsters or competition holsters. Nothing I have is a competition holster here. Trying to compare competition holsters to these type of holsters, trying to compare your race car for a track to your drive it on the street car. Two different worlds, obviously. With that said, hopefully I've showed you some different holsters for little pocket carrier guns, little smaller than pocket carry guns, full-size guns, bigger than full-size guns, etc. Some different options. There are, I don't know if I want to say hundreds of brands, but there are close to hundreds of brands of holster makers out there currently that make concealed carry or just chest rig type carry. You know, I can't tell you where to go find them. Everybody knows how to find various stuff for various places. What I can tell you is Invader Concepts appears to be a really good brand. Gunfighters Inc. appears to be a really good brand. Galco's always been a good brand. Safariland makes mostly duty holsters, but a lot of off-duty concealed carry type holsters. There are smaller outfits like this one that doesn't even have a brand name on it that make holsters that are leather. You can get Kydex. When it comes to the material, get good sturdy material. Kydex is a little tougher on your firearm that you're going to draw and put away and draw and put away than maybe a lined leather holster, but it's usually going to be a little bit less expensive and obviously doesn't have any break-in time. Now, speaking of holsters, still, when I was putting this one away, I noticed that it didn't feel right. And when I checked on it, what I found, and I just moved the strap, is that this strap off of this holster, got underneath the safety, the manual safety on it, and hung it up. Now, normally I don't wear this all together at the same time, obviously. But I felt that, and then I could tell the gun wasn't going to fall on the ground, so I just left it and continued what we were doing. Which brings us to this. Know your equipment. My little catchphrase is go out, practice, train, know your equipment so you're always best prepared. Being part of that best prepared is prepared not to shoot yourself. Prepared to stop, evaluate what's going on with your equipment at that particular time. Can't get the knife back in the sheath or whatever you think you know. In this case, you can't get the holster put away where it feels right. What's in the way? What's going wrong? Stop, evaluate what's going on before you make a mistake with a loaded firearm. Most of the time, most of us putting our firearms back in the holster is not a speed thing. If you're active duty, something, military, law enforcement, where you're drawing and deploying your firearm, or maybe not, you're drawing it, you're putting it away, you're challenging other threats, whatever situation changes, that's a different world. If you're not, and you're what most of us are, and that is you're carry concealed, carry out in the woods, whatever you're doing, once you draw your firearm and address the threat or shoot your animal or whatever you're doing, you have time to carefully or reluctantly reholster and make sure your gun's not going to fall out of the holster as you go after your critter or whatever you're off to do the next thing. Know what it feels like when that firearm goes into the holster. Know what it's supposed to sound like. Especially with Kydex, there's kind of a little snap-in, pop sound where it locks into place. Almost all Kydex nowadays is held into place with what you might want to call a friction fit, etc., where it locks in, but there's no other mechanism, there's no mechanical mechanism or strap or anything holding the firearm in place. Here in a couple minutes, we're going to magically teleport ourselves. No, not yet! Damn, it's a good thing it's a nice day and I was dressed the right way. Here we are out on the range. Got a few, very few of the holsters we had laid out here. Got our 22, 357, 44 mag, 357 in the ankle holster, 40 in an old style duty holster, 9mm in the newer style duty holster, 22 Magnum. I got my 9mm subcompact on. I got the 10mm up here in chest holster. And I'm going to take this little one, and normally you would carry it in a pocket or something, but these kind of shirts, pockets like this, kind of hide it away. Most people don't even realize what you're doing there. So maybe that's an option for you. We're going to not really shoot anything. We're just going to demonstrate. We're going to shoot and crank off some rounds. But this isn't an accuracy test. It's not a pop bottle thing today. We're just going to do some demonstration of what you would want to take into consideration as safety, especially if you're on a range that is unlike ours, which I'm the only one here today. But if you're at a range where you are on a line behind a bench and there's less experienced people, people get very, very antsy if you have a holster like this because it's pointing down at the ground. If you draw your firearm out, now you may be flagging yourself or whatever, and now there's people in line with you, right? You could, I guess, turn this way if you needed to. Now this is downrange, and I don't want to flag the camera, so I'm not gonna, but come here, now the muzzle's that way. So keep that in mind, is to pay attention to your surroundings, especially around other people, because that's going to keep you out of trouble and keep you from getting kicked off the range. Same thing would apply if you have a shoulder holster. I didn't bring one of those out here, but remember the one I had, the muzzle pointed up, kind of that old Miami Vice type style? It always bothered me when I was younger and all the detectives were wearing those. I was never a detective. And they all looked cool like Don Johnson. But you were always looking down the muzzle of their firearm anytime you were behind them. It's safe, I trusted them, but it still was weird. People at a range might not like that. You go to draw, same thing. Now you're sweeping the line. Even if you're out on the range with your buddies, same thing. Keep in mind, when you draw from a shoulder holster, or left or right-handed, you have to cross the other people. You have to be exceptionally careful and know what you're doing. Trigger finger control, safeties, all that. Don't get in a quick draw scenario or contest with a shoulder holster and other people beside you on the line. Same thing applies to my little pocket gun up here. Right now, it's a single action and so on, but nobody that's over here on the line wants to be looking at the muzzle and wondering what the hell I'm doing. So again, luckily today, there's my cameraman and me, and that's it. So we are plenty safe. And when you look at the range, everywhere out there is safe. Everywhere, almost 360, believe it or not, is a safe direction for us where we are today. Got some traditional belts, kind of a duty belt that you may have seen in my latest little short I put on Instagram. So with all that, let's get to it. Let's see if we can put some rounds downrange. Now we have a couple concealed firearms, and this one obviously not concealed, not designed to be concealed. It's designed for outdoors where you can open carry and you want quick access. We'll start with this one. You can do a one-hand draw with this one. Safety off, engage your target. Simple Simon, safety back on. Make sure you're latching your hammer straps out of the way, put it back, easy. That's why a lot of people like these. If you needed your other hand for something, you have that. Don't be reaching out here where you're trying to shoot though. We all know that. The next one we have is your typical, in this case, strong side carry, but it wouldn't matter where on my belt I'm carrying it. I've got to clear my cover garment, get on the firearm, come out, safety off, find the red dot, engage the target. Safety back on, clear my cover garment again. If I have to, look it back into the holster, cover it back up. There you go. The last one I have is the North American Arms. You can almost one-hand this one. Not so good with my offhand. In this case, most shirts are meant for right-handed people. If it's my cell phone, no big deal. Getting a firearm out, now I've got it in my offhand. We'll see if I can at least hit the target shooting it with the wrong hand for me. I guess I can. Okay. Put it back away. Try not to flag you folks at home. Zip it back up. We're going to get reset with more traditional open carry belts, a couple different style holsters, and show you how those differ from concealed carry. Now we're set up with some open carry duty rig type holsters. This is the Safari Land, I don't know what model they call it, I'm sorry. Anyway, it goes on, the forks go on your holster, the base plate goes on your belt. This has the same thing, and then on my normal at work duty carry one, I have the same thing. So when I go to training, I take my belt with the 3 magazine holder. It works out better. All you have to do, let me set this down off camera. Make sure you can see. You just line up the forks with your plate, locks it in good and tight. There you go. Remember, even with big open rigs like this, you need to make sure that your garments don't get down in the holster or other stuff, right? So if at all possible, when I'm wearing a full rig like this, I like to have my holster clear. I don't like to wear coats and so on just because of potential issues. All right. Had a little trouble finding my red dot. Totally different gun, you know what I'm used to doing. See if we can do it a little bit quicker. There we go. Safety on. Put the firearm away. Now you may or may not see other things, and one of the many disadvantages, actually one of the advantages over compared to the many disadvantages to being heavy, is that baggier clothes allow you to hide firearms a little bit better. In this case, I have a different firearm up here than I did in the previous segment. Part of carrying concealed and watching for adversaries or threats is to be prepared or to maybe prep a little bit. In this case, if I'm carrying it in this pocket, maybe I want to unzip this pocket so they don't notice. Maybe I want to reach in here, maybe it's clear over here, I want to position it. This one has this holster, which is designed to be drawn from a pants pocket. We'll see how it works here. This bottom part's supposed to hang up, allow you to draw the gun out. We'll see if that holds true here. Get on it, comes right out. Take the safety off. Safety back on. Now, in my case, I would want to, just for safety's sakes, and if time allowed, put it back in the holster, put it back away, zip it up so it doesn't fall out. One of the other types I showed you is an ankle holster. Ankle holsters have their time and place, but not necessarily as an everyday, all the time, only because if you're bigger, if you can't bend over and touch your toes, 1,000 reasons physically you can't get to it. It's slower. You've got to pull your pant leg out of the way. Again, with most concealed carry, you're going to have to move some sort of garment to get to your firearm. So pull it up, unsnap it, pull it out. Same process to put it away. The only difference is I didn't have to hold my pant leg out of the open both times. But you can see how slow it is. Is it better than nothing? Heck yes, it's better than nothing. Is it deeply concealed? Most of the time, nobody's looking at your feet. So it serves a purpose and a time and place. Again, not all the time. Let's get one more type of rig on, do a couple more firearms, and we'll wrap it up. Let's talk about preemptive or setting yourself up for success. Now, if you are out in the public and you're carrying concealed, there are little things you might be able to do. In this case, you could unzip the pocket, make sure that your firearm's where you want it to be, not clear back over here. Excuse me. You cannot do things like reach down and get your gun out of your ankle holster or pull your pant leg up so everybody can see it. There, now I'm prepped. You can't pull your cover garment up over your gun. What you could do is, depending upon your cover garment, unbutton it so that it's easier to sweep out of the way. That's a very popular method. Pull it up, make sure that if you can, just double check through your cover garment that your firearm, you know where it is. I know that sounds a little silly, but you just want to make sure, yep, it's there, we're good to go. This is really bothering me, hold on. Now I have on a Hunter holster with the 550 cord hammer thong and my 357 Model 27 in my old style Texas Ranger holster with just a regular leather cowboy type belt. Nice thing about these is the gun's not going anywhere. You're not pulling the hammer back. These are very secure holsters if you're not planning to go into combat or work patrol all the time or 1,000 other things where people might be wanting to unsnap and drag your gun out or get it away from you, whatever, okay? For somebody that just wants to wear a 357 out in the woods, great holster, great type setup. Same thing over here. You want to carry a 22 with you, went for snakes or for whatever you're carrying with you to go with your deer rifle. We've talked about your little gun, big rifle, little gun, whatever. These are excellent. It's not going anywhere, okay? Again, you're not pulling the hammer back all the way. It's got 9 shots. It's fairly quick. You can take a little strap off, little hammer thong, pull the gun out, and not have it go off. All right. Well, I knew I had one empty chamber. I messed up by not staging it correctly. Not the gun's fault. Put it away. I will mention briefly, if you're getting older like me and you got arthritis in your shoulders, getting up high to get a firearm out. So if I was set up like this with this gun this high with a 6-inch barrel, that becomes an issue for me personally. This only has a 3.5-inch barrel. It's a little bit easier. I still like this one. It's an old school one, but I still like it. Make sure I get it put away. Make sure this isn't in the way. Snap it down. Always secure your firearms back in the holster with your retention devices. In this case, the strap. In this case, this little hammer thong. Modern holsters, modern Kydex and so on, duty holsters, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Just put it back in, it clicks in place, done. That's the whole purpose, the migration of holsters. We could spend another 2 hours out here on the history of holsters just in law enforcement or combat. I've never been in combat. I have, for 36 years, carried a duty holster with a full-size firearm on my hip every day I've gone to work. All right, let's get back over to the real table and we'll close this thing out. If you stayed through all this, thank you. This video has been a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. And we barely scratched the surface on systems and holsters, etc. Remember some key points. Your holster has to match your firearm. Revolver holsters traditionally are simpler systems. Less things to go wrong with them. Semi-automatic holsters are more mechanical. Some things can go wrong with them. Sometimes the suede lining gets swollen up and then your gun won't go in and out. Sometimes the spring that makes your retention doesn't work anymore. I've had them break on me. I don't think I've ever had a leather holster break on me. If you want a simpler system, old school leather revolvers are a way to go. If you want to look cool and a more complicated system and more modern firearms, they make simpler holsters than these duty rigs that have security issues with them. But if you're a security guard, if you're a cop, if you're anybody that's carrying open that may have somebody want to take their firearm, you must have a security type holster. All right. You must make your your holster match your firearm, and it must work properly. It must hold your firearm where it's supposed to be. If you have a super old one, you can put a piece of 550 cord over it, make it work just like it was supposed to. In fact, it made it work better than this was original. I don't have a lot of, I'm worried about the snap and it not looking pretty issues. If that's you, buy a brand new holster for the firearm that looks the part you want it for. This rig is kind of a cowboy rig. I kind of like it. It works for the range. It works for some special things we do. It's not a combat rig. It's not really even a hunting rig. Find the reason you're buying a holster and a belt and so on. Match that holster, the firearm, to your needs. That takes some work. Watch our videos. Watch other people's videos. Look at all the different places I said you could look up holsters and brand names, etc. Please comment down below what you carry. Educate us, because I know I've just scratched the surface on this. If you stayed here this whole time, thank you very much. I hope you learned something. Remember to sign up, subscribe, be a Patreon, all those things that help keep this channel going so we can bring out the gear we do. Go hit the range, practice, work with, know your equipment, so you're always the best prepared for the worst case situations.